All right, let's get into a little bit of a recap of the market this week. Finally, some greed in the market. Finally, an opportunity for us to push the green button and make some money. And everything feels slightly easier. We'll dive into the charts and take a look at where we stand. First thing I want to cover off really is from a personal perspective. And these videos are just as much a personal reflection as they are a discussion for everybody else. My performance in 2025 has been significantly better than 2024 already. I had a pretty poor midpoint of 2024. Trading decisions were piss. I've spoken about it before, right? Just like poor trading decisions, way more subjective analysis going on, way less technical analysis happening, way less ability to be able to correctly time things. And that at the start of 2025 has changed significantly. I attribute that a lot down to the far less time spent on Twitter. I made a big change at the start of the year where I basically said, look, I'm gonna hop onto Twitter every now and again to, post some things, say some things, and then log off. And that's basically what I've stuck to. I come online, I post a tweet, I post a chart, I share my thoughts, I log off. I don't browse Twitter anymore. I don't sit there scrolling through things. And I put a huge amount of my kind of new mental freshness down to that change that I made and that decision that I made to kind of stop the scrolling and the endless kind of absorption of content and information and various other things through Twitter. And so far, like I said, this year has been exceptional from my perspective. The trading decision, the clarity, the actual execution, far, far better. And this week has just really kind of exemplified that, which is why I've started this video by discussing it. It's why I've kind of, started with this self-praise. And that's also an important part from a trading perspective. And for many people out there, self-praise and being able to kind of congratulate yourself is a very important thing to do, because in this world and in this job, no one else is going to do it for you. Okay, you don't have a boss who's going to turn around and say, you know what, great work this week, right? It's just you in your own head. And we're quick enough to punish ourselves and be negative about our performance and be negative about our decision making, and we should be equally quick to be positive when we are making good decisions and we are doing things correctly. So like I said, personal reflection, personal point of being able to reflect and to be able to give some self-praise. I'm sure you're all out there giving me a standing ovation, clapping, chanting my name, various other things, but wanted to start off with that while we dive into now kind of the charts and some of the setups that I took this week. And really that's just naturally unfolding from the discussions we'll be having versus me being like, hey, let's continue the self-praise throughout this whole video here. So where we are as it stands from higher time frame perspective is really what we've been discussing for kind of the last week or so from a YouTube perspective and the last few weeks from a Twitter perspective when I've been posting charts. And that is the simplicity around RSI 50 and what that means to Bitcoin. And the one thing that I pointed out as the simplest possible thing that we can look at for a change in the conditions of what we've been experiencing for the last 3 months is a cross through of this RSI 50 level. It seems so dumb. It seems so like ridiculously simple, but it's highly effective in terms of trending markets. When markets are trending aggressively, the 50 level is a real barrier for markets to pass through. And again, you can see that just highlighted on this last 3 month section of BTC price action. We had very little ability to be able to pass through this 50. It was a consistent rejection point for us. And now something has changed in the market. And whether or not you believe kind of the RSI 50 or the discussion around the TA to do with that, the very important thing is that we acknowledge that the market has now done something that it hasn't been able to do for the last 3 months. That's the simplest way of looking at this. So when we're thinking about things like short squeezes, counter trend pushes, momentum changes, possible creation of a new uptrending market structure, that begins with the market changing its character. And you may have heard that phrase before when we talk about changes of character of a market. This is a very good example of when a market changes character, right? Its ability now to do something that it has not been able to do in a significant length of time for us on BTC. And what we see now through here is what is actually going to result in a very important 3-day close for us in about an hour and a half. So when you see this, we'll know whether or not this is going to have stuck or not. But we can see through here. Okay, very important sticky level for BTC here at 92,500. Closes above. Really good sign for BTC. Really good sign if we can get those closes above. And what we'd be looking for then is one of two things. We'd either be looking for moves back underneath here to be holding. And I think that the lower time frame represents a significant enough cool down or correction in the market for these levels to be holding just here. I don't think we necessarily need to dip more than a couple of thousand through here. And in the worst case scenario, we'd be looking for retest back sub 90 and for this breakout level here on the 3-day to be holding instead. Now, like I said, I would want to see from a strength argument, I'd want to see this level here hold. And we can already see on the 4-hour that we've had a relatively decent reaction coming down into this level. And here on the 4-hour as well, I would love to see just a little bit more here. And this doesn't have to be this correction in order to get that. This can just chop for the next few days and it can just do this. And that would bring this nicely down back towards this 50 because we know the higher time frames, the daily, the 3-day, the weekly, still have plenty of room in terms of that potential for expansion. So ideally what we'd like to see now is a little bit of cool off and consolidation on the kind of low to mid time frames, giving us that room to then continue this move on the higher time frames. That's would be the most kind of pleasing outcome here. And there are now a range of charts which are now representing really good opportunity for us. So like Sol, for example, is a market that is now representing really, really great opportunity. We have down here a 3-day bullish divergence. The divergence has now been confirmed and locked in, and we are now starting to see the unfolding or the playing out of that divergence through the price action that's happening up here. So we can see down here with our lows, we've got our nice clear higher low on the RSI. We've got our nice clear higher low here in terms of the awesome oscillator. And obviously we've got our fresh low with price over here. We've also done the recovery of the level at 130, which is a really important higher time frame support level for Sol. And this is now looking more and more like that sub 100 push, fearful for the market before moving into a reversal scenario. Another market still has opportunity. When we see that momentum shift and when we see the market start to respond in a different way to what it has done previously, it usually should mean for you that it's kind of an alarm bell situation. Something's changed in the market, momentum has now shifted, and we're now looking to see where this push can take us. Now, with all that being said, the markets are still in a downtrending structure. Okay, we still have downtrending markets. And so we still need to view these, unfortunately, and it's just a label, but we still need to refer to these and think about these as short squeezes and opportunities to put on counter trend pressure. It does not mean that these will not materialize into uptrends, into new uptrending structures and into fresh bullish conditions. It just means at this stage and at this particular point in time, we have to look at these more or less as this kind of, squeezing structure. Now, that really doesn't matter to us aside from the label. The label of it being, a short squeeze or whatever else, that it doesn't really matter to us. What matters to us is we're able to take advantage of these situations and these points in time, because very often these aggressive moves and some of the things that we've already seen on Fartcoin, is already up 5x from the lows, 6x from the lows. And we're starting to see other alts now also make a push. I keep on referring to BONK as well. I think this chart is really well set up here. Really good 4-hour reset back into this level, really nice reaction to the upside. And what these markets are doing is they're showing us that there's still value to be achieved in these markets, and Fartcoin being the primary example. We have something that's already up at 2x from the lows, and it's run 5x from the lows. A lot of people kind of forget about a market, give up on a market, stay sidelined on a market just because it's gone up a lot. And in these shorter periods of time, we can really amplify the returns that we can receive from some of these markets just because they're so aggressive in the moves that we now see to the upside. So it doesn't matter what we label it as. It doesn't matter what we think about the higher timeframes. It doesn't what we think about, kind of like macroeconomic situation here. What matters is that right now the momentum shifted. Right now, BTC pushed through that RSI 50. It's done something it hasn't done in 3 months. And it's now down to us to take advantage of that situation. And where the tide turns, whether that be chop, whether that be continuation of the downtrend, we change our behavior in accordance with it. But for now, things are good. Markets are looking really positive. I still think there's value on a ton of alts. I think that Sol's in a really good position. I think that you've got markets like BONK that are still in a good position. You still have a higher time frame bullish divergences represented on a lot of alt markets. Pengu, Floki are just some examples that I've been looking at tonight as well. And for now, when the markets are green and they're giving us these returns on the long side with relative ease, we keep clicking.